Hey kids, this is Mrs. Hayes, and I'm about to read your reading for Thursday of the week that we're currently in, and we won't do one for Friday since it's a bad weather day. But I'm in here in my classroom all by myself, missing you guys, and I thought I might just show you. Your desks are still here, right? And I still come in here and work to get your packets together, and I'm going to flip it around. I hope I look okay. I hadn't checked myself and looked to see if my hair was combed right. But I just wanted to say hi to y'all. Well, it's not too bad. And tell you how much I still miss you so much. But I hope you're enjoying the reading of our book, because I think it really correlates well with the things that you're going through. And, where you don't get to have the freedom to do the things you usually do. Except, we're real fortunate. We're not worried about losing our lives or someone coming in and getting our family and harming them. All right, I'm going to flip around, and y'all can text me, by the way, and let me know what you're thinking about the book, okay? Let's flip around. Here's our little sign. I'm going to put that there so you can be concentrating on the book. Please read along with me, because there's a lot of stuff in here that's a little bit hard sometimes for us to understand. The vocabulary is sometimes a little bit hard, and they have words that come up that are German names, German towns, and you know that I don't know how to pronounce them. So we'll do the best we can together, and this will be for Thursday, and that is the 30th of April. Can you believe we'll be finished with April, and we'll be into May? Let's see. Well, on Friday will be the 1st of May. All right, here we go. We're on page 93. Thursday, the 29th of July, 1943. Dear Kitty, Mrs. Van Don, Dussel, and I were doing the dishes, and I was extraordinarily quiet, which hardly ever happens, so they would have been sure to notice. In order to avoid questions, I quickly sought a fairly neutral topic and thought that the book, Henry from the Other Side, would meet the need. But I had made a mistake. If Mrs. Van Don doesn't pounce on me, then Mr. Dussel does. This is what it came to. Mr. Dussel had specially recommended us this book as being excellent. Margaret and I thought it was anything but excellent. The boy's character was certainly well drawn, but the rest, I had better gloss over that. I said something to that effect while we were washing the dishes, but it brought me a packet of trouble. How can you understand the psychology of a man? Of a child is not so difficult. You are much too young for a book like that. Why, even a man of 20 would not be able to grasp it. So I'm thinking, why did he so especially recommend this book to Margaret and me? Now, Dussel and Mrs. Van Don continued together. You know too much about things that are unsuitable for you. You've been brought up all wrong. Later on, when you are older, you won't enjoy anything. Then you'll say, I read that in books 20 years ago. You had better make haste if you want to get a husband or fall in love, or everything is sure to be a disappointment to you. You are already proficient in the theory. It's only the practice that you still lack. I suppose it's their idea of good upbringing to always try to set me against my parents, because that is what they often do. And to a girl of my age, nothing about grown-up subjects is an equally fine method. I see the results of that kind of upbringing frequently and all too clearly. I could have slapped both their faces, and at that moment, as they stood there making a fool of me, I was beside myself with rage, and I'm just counting the days until I'm rid of those people. Mrs. Van Don is a nice one. She sets a fine example. She certainly sets one, a bad one. She is well known as being very pushy, selfish, cunning, calculating, and is never content. I can also add vanity and coquetry. That means like she kind of flirts, to the list. There is no question about it. She is an unspeakably disagreeable person. I could write whole chapters about Madame, and who knows, perhaps I will someday. Anyone can put a fine coat of varnish outside. Mrs. Van Don is friendly to strangers, and especially men, so it is easy to make a mistake when you have only known her for a short time. Mummy thinks she is too stupid to waste words over. Margot too unimportant. Pym too ugly, literally and figuratively. And I, after long observation, for I was never prejudiced from the start, have come to the conclusion that she is all three and a lot more. She has so many bad qualities. Why should I even begin about one of them? Yours, Annie. P.S. Will the reader take into consideration that when the story was written, the writer had not cooled down from her fury? So she's very upset with Mrs. Van Daan because Annie had read a book that Mr. Dussel had suggested for she and her older sister Margaret to read, and then they start telling how unsuitable it was, that she wasn't near enough, old enough to be reading a book like that, and that her upbringing is all wrong. Can you imagine having to live with some 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for no telling how long, who criticized you all day long and all evening, and criticized the way your parents have brought you up? That would not be a fun way to have to live, on top of the fact that she's missing out on so many things that she would like to do as a young girl. Okay, let's see if it gets better for her. Tuesday, August the 3rd, 1943. Dear Kitty, political news is excellent. Political news excellent. In Italy, the fascist party has been banned. The people are fighting the fascists in many places. Even the army is actually taking part in the battle. Can a country like that wage war against England? We've just had a third air raid. I clenched my teeth together to make myself feel courageous. Mrs. Van Daan, who has also said a terrible end is better than no end at all, is the greatest coward of all of us now. She was shaking like a leaf this morning and even burst into tears when her husband, with whom she has just made it up after a week's squabbling, comforted her. The expression on her face alone almost made me feel sentimental. Muschi has proved that keeping cats has disadvantages as well as advantages. The whole house is full of fleas, and the plague gets worse every day. Mr. Kufus has scattered yellow powder in every nook and corner, but the fleas don't seem to mind a bit. It's making us all quite nervous. One keeps imagining an itch in one's arms, legs, and various parts of the body, which is why quite a lot of us are doing gymnastics, so as to be able to look at the back of our necks or legs while standing up. Now we're being paid back for not being more supple. We're too stiff to even turn our heads properly. We gave up real gymnastics long ago. Yours, Annie. So, their cat that benefits them because it kills all the mice and where they're staying has developed fleas. And so they're afraid they'll get them. So when she says they're doing gymnastics, they're bending and turning and trying to look on their arms, their legs for a flea or a bite. And supple means like you can move easily. Like if you have a little, if you're pretty limber, then that would be supple. I think of a tree being supple that can bend easily. And a big thick tree, with a large trunk, that's not going to bend, but a tiny new tree you've just planted might bend in the wind, and that would be an example of supple. Okay, here we go. Wednesday, August the 4th, 1943. Dear Kitty, now that we have been in the secret annex for over a year, you know something of our lives, but some of it is quite indescribable. There is so much to tell. Everything is so different from ordinary times and from ordinary people's lives. But still, to give you a closer look into our lives, now and again, I intend to give you a description of an ordinary day. Today, I'm beginning with the evening and night. 9 o'clock in the evening. The bustle of going to bed in the secret annex begins, and it is always really quite a business. Chairs are shoved about, beds are pulled down, blankets unfolded, nothing remains where it is during the day. Asleep on the little divan, which is not more than 1.5 meters long, so chairs have to be used to lengthen it. A quilt, sheet, pillows, blankets are all fetched from Dussel's bed, where they remain during the day. One hears terrible creaking in the next room. Margaret's concerto bed being pulled out. Again, divan, blankets, and pillows. Everything is done to make the wooden slats a bit more comfortable. It sounds like thunder above, but it is only Mrs. Van Daan's bed. This is shifted to the window, you see, in order to give Her Majesty in the pink bed jacket fresh air to tickle her dainty nostrils. She's being very sarcastic, right? After Peter's finished, I step into the washing cubicle where I give myself a thorough wash and a general toilet. It occasionally happens, only in the hot weeks or months, that there's a tiny flea floating in the water. Then teeth cleaning, hair curling, manicure, and my cotton wool pads with hydrogen peroxide. She uses that to bleach black mustache hairs. All this in under half an hour. 9:30. Quickly into dressing gowns, soap in one hand, potty, hairpins, pants, curlers, and cotton wool in the other. I hurry out of the bathroom, but usually I'm called back once the various hairs which decorate the wash basin in graceful curves, but which are not approved by the next person. So she's got to clean the sink out well for the next person. 10 o'clock. Put up the blackout. Good night. For at least a quarter of an hour, there's creaking of beds and a sighing of broken springs. Then all is quiet. At least that is if our neighbors upstairs don't quarrel in bed. That would be the Van Dons, right? 11:30. The bathroom door creaks. A narrow strip of light falls into the room. A squeak of shoes. A large coat, even larger than the man inside it. Dussel returns from his night work in Kraler's office. Shuffling on the floor for 10 minutes, crackle of paper, that is the food which has to be stowed away, and a bed is made. Then the form disappears again, and one only hears suspicious noises from the lavatory from time to time. 3 o'clock, I have to get up for a little job in the metal pot under my bed, which is on a rubber mat for safety's sake in case of leakage. When this has taken place, I always hold my breath as it clatters into the tin like a brook from a mountain. Then the pot is returned to the place, and the figure in the white nightgown, which evokes the same cry from Margaret every evening, "Oh, that indecent nightdress," steps back into bed. There, a certain person lies awake for about a quarter of an hour, listening to the sounds of the night. Firstly, to whether there might not be a burglar downstairs, then to the various beds above, next door, and in my room, from which one is usually able to make out how the various members of the household are sleeping, or how they pass the night in wakefulness. The latter is certainly not pleasant, especially when it concerns a member of the family by the name of Dussel. First I hear a sound like a fish gasping for breath. This is repeated 9 or 10 times. Then with much ado and interchanged with little smacking sounds, the lips are moistened, followed by a lengthy twisting and turning in bed and rearranging of pillows. 5 minutes perfect peace, and then the same sequence of events unfolds itself at least 3 times more, after the doctor has soothed himself to sleep again for a little while. It can also happen that we get a bit of shooting in the night, varying between 1 o'clock and 4. I never really realize it until from habit I am already standing at my bedside. Sometimes I'm so busy dreaming that I'm thinking about French irregular verbs or a quarrel upstairs. It is this some time before I begin to realize that the guns are firing and that I am still in the room. But it usually happens as described above. I quickly grab a pillow and handkerchief, put on my dressing gown and slippers, and scamper to Daddy, like Margot wrote in this birthday poem. The first shot sounds at dead of night. Hush, look, a door creaks open wide. A little girl glides into sight, clasping a pillow to her side. Once landed in the big bed, the worst is over, except if the firing gets very bad. 6:45. I was trying to make that noise. The alarm clock that raises its voice at any hour of the day, if one asks for it, and sometimes when one doesn't. Crack, ping, Mrs. Van Daan has turned it off. Creak, Mr. Van Daan gets up, puts on water, and in full speed to the bathroom. 7:15. The door creaks again. Dussel can go to the bathroom. Once alone, I take down the blackout, and a new day in the secret annex has begun. Yours, Annie. Okay, so she's telling you all this so you'll understand how the nights go. It's very hard to get that many people ready for bed. It's hard to take care of your personal needs, such as going to the restroom, being able to brush your teeth, get cleaned up, and changed into clothes with one, what they call a laboratory, and a secret annex. And once again, it's not with just your family or your cousins you like being around. It's with two different complete families that you didn't really know that well beforehand, and then Mr. Dussel, the dentist, who had no place to go. And why are they staying here? Because they're all Jewish people, and the Nazis, who were under the authority of Adolf Hitler, were going about taking all these families from their homes, or if they found them on the street, taking them and making them go to a concentration camp, which we say, many times over and over. I've said there they were most of the time put into large buildings and killed by gas chambers or shot. Okay, Thursday, August the 5th, 1943. Dear Kitty, today I'm going to take a lunchtime. It is 12:30. The whole mixed crowd breathes again. The warehouse boys have gone home now. Above, one can hear the noise of Mrs. Van Dawn's vacuum cleaner on her beautiful and only carpet. Margaret goes with a few books under her arm for her Dutch lesson for children who make no progress, because that's Dussel's attitude. Pim goes into a corner with his inseparable Dickens to try and find peace somewhere. Mummy hurries upstairs to help the industrious housewife, and I go to the bathroom to tidy it up a bit, and find myself at the same time. 1:45. The place is filling up. First Mr. Van Santen, then Koopes or Krayler, Ellie, and sometimes Miep as well. 1 o'clock. We're all sitting listening to the BBC, and I believe that's the British broadcast. I'd have to look that up, but they're sitting around their radio, which they now call the baby wireless. These are the only times when members of the secret annex do not interrupt each other, because now someone is speaking whom even Mr. Van Dawn can't interrupt. And this is news they're hungry to hear. 1:15. The great share out. Everyone from below gets a cup of soup, and if there is ever a pudding, some of that as well. Mr. Van Santen is happy and goes to sit on the divan or lean against the writing table. Newspaper cup and usually the cat beside him. If one of the three is missing, he's sure to protest. Sorry, I got that off of there. Koopes tells us the latest news from town. He is certainly an excellent source of information. Krayler comes in helter-skelter upstairs. A short, firm knock on the door, and in he comes, rubbing his hands according to his mood, in a good temper and talkative, or a bad temper and quiet. 1:45, everyone rises from the table and goes about his own business. Margot and Mommy to the dishes, Mr. and Mrs. Van Dawn to their divan, which is a couch. Peter up to the attic, Daddy to the divan downstairs. Again, that's another word for couch. Dussel to his bed and Annie to her work. Then follows the most peaceful hour. Everyone is asleep. No one is disturbed. Dussel dreams of lovely food. The expression on his face gives us away. But I don't look long because the time goes so fast. And at 4 o'clock, the pedantic doctor is standing, clock in hand, because I'm 1 minute late in clearing the table for him. Remember, she has to share the table with him where she wants to do some of her schoolwork, and he says he needs the table himself. All right, let's try to read maybe one or two more. Monday, August the 9th, 1943. Dear Kitty, to continue the secret annex daily timetable, I shall now describe the evening meal. Mr. Van Dawn begins. He is first to be served, takes a lot of everything if it is what he likes, usually talks at the same time, always gives his opinion as the only one worth listening to, and once he has spoken, it is irrevocable. That means nobody can go against what he says, because if anyone dares to question it, then he flares up at once. Oh, he can spit like a cat. I'd rather not argue. I can tell you, if you've once tried, you don't try again. He has the best opinion. He knows the most about everything. All right, then, he has got brains, but self-satisfaction has reached a high grade with this gentleman. Madame, really, I should remain silent. Some days, especially if there's a bad mood coming on, you can't look at her face. Not the on closer examination, she is the guilty one in all the arguments, not the subject. Oh, not everyone prefers to remain aloof over that, but one can perhaps call her the kindler. That means she starts the arguments. Stirring up trouble, that's fun. Mrs. Frank against Annie. Margot against Daddy doesn't go quite so easily. But now at the table, Mrs. Van Don doesn't go short, although she thinks so at times. The tiniest potatoes, the sweetest mouthful, the best of everything, picking over is her system. The others will get their turn as long as I have the best. That's what she's saying, how Mrs. Van Don operates, picking out her food at the table. Then talking, whether anyone is interested, whether they are listening or not, that doesn't seem to matter. I suppose she thinks everyone is interested in what Mrs. Van Don says. Coquettish smiles, behaving as if one knew everything, giving everyone a bit of advice and encouragement. That's sure to make a good impression. But if you look longer, then the good soon wears off. 1, she is industrious. 2, she is gay, and that means she is happy. 3, a coquette, and occasionally pretty. This is Petronella Van Don, the third table companion. One doesn't hear much from him. Young Mr. Van Don is very quiet and doesn't draw much attention to himself. As for appetite, a Danadine vessel which is never full, and after the heartiest meal declares quite calmly that he could have eaten double. Number 4, Margot. Eats like a little mouse and doesn't talk at all. The only things that go down are vegetables and fruit. Spoiled is the Van Don's judgment. Not enough fresh air and games, our opinion. Beside her, Mummy, good appetite, very talkative. No one has the impression as Mrs. Van Don. This is the housewife. What is the difference? Well, Mrs. Van Don does the cooking and Mummy washes up and polishes. Number 6 and 7, I won't say much about Daddy and me. The former is the most unassuming of all at the table. He looks first to see if everyone else has something. So he looks around. Some of the people in this household, when they sit down to have a meal, and remember their food is not very plentiful, and they don't get the best of everything. Sometimes it's kind of old and a little bit towards the rotted side or spoiled side. But some people will sit down and when anything is served, they're going to make sure they get the best of everything that's available, right? But Annie's saying about her dad, he needs nothing for himself, for the best things are for the children. He is the perfect example, and sitting beside him, the secret annex's bundle of nerves. Dr. Dussel, he's the bundle of nerves. Helps himself, never looks up, eats and doesn't talk. And if one must talk, then for heaven's sake, let it be about food. You don't quarrel about it, you only brag. Enormous helpings go down, and the word no is never heard. Never when the food is good, and not often when it's bad. Trousers wrapping his chest, red coat, black bedroom slippers, and a horn-rimmed spectacles. Now I think trousers wrapping his chest must be like he has a kind of big belly, and so his trousers are pulled up to his chest to rest instead of his waist. That is how one sees him at the little table, always working, alternated only by his afternoon nap, food, and his favorite spot, the laboratory. 3, 4, 5 times a day, someone stands impatiently in front of the door and wriggles, hopping from one foot to the other, hardly able to contain himself. Does it disturb him? Does it bother him that someone's about to wet their pants? Nope, not a bit. From 7:15 till 8:30. From 12:30 till 1 o'clock. From 2 till 4:15. From 4 till 4:15. From 6 till 4:15. And from 11:30 until 12. One can make note of it. These are the regular sitting times. He won't come off or pay any heed to an imploring voice at the door, giving warning of approaching disaster. So, in other words, he has his regular times in the laboratory or the restroom, and he's not coming out, even if someone else is in agony of needing to go to the restroom. Number 9 isn't a member of the secret annex family, but rather a companion in the house and at table. Ellie has a healthy appetite, leaves nothing on her plate, and is not picky and choosy. She is easy to please, and that is just what gives us pleasure. Cheerful and good-tempered, willing and good-natured, those are her characteristics. Okay, I'm going to stop. That was I think I did a lot of talking in that because we've used up our time. I hope you have a really fun day on Friday that you don't have to do schoolwork unless you're not caught up. You might want to use that day to do some catching up. But enjoy your weekend, and then we'll meet again, and it will be May the 4th on the next Monday. All right, I miss you guys. Take care of yourself and wash your hands. Bye-bye.